Black matte vinyl tape. Vinyl your own tail lights. Okay, so first I just wiped it down. Make sure it's clean with some alcohol. Cut your piece of vinyl or tint, whatever you use. I happen to have this piece of leftover vinyl. What I'm gonna do is run it from this line, this seam line, straight across. Don't try to fold it, just run it straight across. Now it gets a little tricky, but if you're patient, take your time, it should work out just right. So I'm gonna use this for my seam line and I'm gonna run it right across the top. Land it right across the top there. Okay, from this point, I use this as a 4-inch roll so I can make sure I catch the bottom. So now I'll take the remainder of this, put it back behind the vinyl so I can just work with this section. Probably could just peel it up to that point, but here we go. Now from here, you want the bottom to catch. So just start working the bottom. Do not press hard because this vinyl will rip. Just get it into shape. What you're basically doing right now is smoothing out the bottom section. When you have enough vinyl that you're going to work with for this half, just come back and cut it. Cut it long enough to where you're still going to have some to work with. Be careful not to cut your car, the lens, but just cut it. This here is a big cut because it's way up there, but I'm just doing this so it's a little bit easier to control. All right, so now that's my seam. What you do now is just take your, I'm taking my thumb and just slowly, softly, easy, working it around into shape. Like I said, be careful. See where it ripped there? Just follow it around with your finger. Okay, now this half just finished landing on out, rounding it around the tail light. All right, so here I'm gonna go ahead and cut it down the middle. Try to get it right in the middle. At least up to the part you're gonna work. All right, so from here, you can go ahead and trim this up, but what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna shape it. Put it back on this edge. Try not to let it stick too firm because you still want to come through and work it. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and trim this back just a little so to make it a little easier to work. Like I said, the main thing is you're just rubbing it. You get the feel for it. You eat. Just continue to feel the shape. And you're just letting it fall right into place. At, at this point, I'm not using my thumbnail. I'm just using my thumb to smooth it. It's not connecting right there, but it's okay. I'm just doing this to get an idea of where I want to make my cut, just so it can be a little bit easier to work with. And just follow that around. If you're ripping it, be careful if it starts, do it slow, because if it run up, hopefully you can avoid it from ripping onto the part you're working. All right, so now I'm gonna peel it back just enough to where I can start seaming it. All right, and I'm working it from the bottom up. So at this point, I'm starting to press it on into place. And now work the top. Just peel it back as needed so it can take shape. And just work it around into place. So now just use your thumbnail and gently crease it around. Like I said, once again, following the contour of the lens itself. Now you have a trace line. Once you have a trace line, this is where you want to be really careful. This knife is pretty sharp. I'm starting, just hold it at that angle, not point. Hold it at an angle because you do want it to slice and cut. Just take it real easy. Like I said, you already have your trace line. You're just scoring it basically. You're not really trying to cut it. Well, you are in a sense, but more so you want to just score it. Now, you should be able to come through, and what I'm doing, see, I'm not peeling it out, I'm just rolling it on itself. There's some spots that it's separating. If it's not separating the way it should, just come through and just score it a little bit more. And start your peel. it's scored just right, it should go right along with the line. And just press it right into place. Open your trunk and press this little seam on in. With this part, you see the seam here? That's your seam line. That's where you want to make your cut, right on that curve. Take your knife, once again, you want to follow that line, but you want to be real careful not to cut the lens. You're just scoring it. Peel the vinyl up to your line, and if it's not cut, just go over it real lightly. Probably be redoing this one because it went a little bit lower than I had anticipated. That's why I say you have to be careful because this vinyl will rip really easy. You don't want to force it. And you want to make sure whatever you're cutting it with is really sharp because you don't want any jagged edges. Okay, I have a rip in my vinyl there. Let's see how it turns out. You do want to be careful around the edges because if you're too harsh on it, it will rip it. Trying to just level this part out. Now at the bottom, just fill it along that edge. And as you see, I'm just using my finger and that cut right through it. Tuck it in under that edge. Okay, now we're gonna score this. Remember, don't put pressure on it. You only want to score it. Don't want to cut your lens. Once again, open your trunk so that you can push this edge in. And as I'm seeing how, just with my finger, how it's basically cutting the vinyl. So be careful, and if anything, you might do away with that little edge altogether. But for the time being, we're gonna run with it. I have enough vinyl to where if I'm that upset with it, I can redo it. But there she is. I actually like the way it is, but I think I'm gonna go for a little bit more light. After I decide exactly how I want it to look, I have plenty more to come back and get it to perfection. So when it's all said and done, that's the look I'll be going for. So right now it's a little rough around the edges, but when it warms up, I know exactly what I want and how to go about it. I think I like that a little better because it's even more custom now.